If I am lying to you about this, may lightning strike me down. We use expressions like this jokingly, but it's based on an idea that many of us carry around, that God is a being who keeps people in line through the power of zapping. God doesn't like that this one's lying, zap. God doesn't like this one's going out to a club on Shabbat, zap. God doesn't like this one ate a handful of cheese crackers on Yom Kippur, zap. Just a Yom Kippur FYI, God is not a zapper. There's no zapping. But wouldn't it be cool if there was? If people who chose to do horribly unethical, hateful things to others would just get zapped and all would be well? It's kind of a shame the world doesn't work that way, but of course we know it doesn't. I think part of why we have this image of God as divine zapper is stories from Torah. We need to remember that while Torah contains a number of amazing ideas and values, Torah stories are from earlier than Judaism, the religion. And the ancient view of God as a big being in the sky who keeps people in line by punishing them with disease or having them swallowed up into the ground is a very ancient idea, not really the God idea that took shape as the centuries passed and Judaism, the religion, evolved into something more sophisticated. But another reason we imagine God as divine zapper is an English phrase that is often used to describe someone who is religious: God-fearing. For Jews, the phrase fear of God is really a poor English translation, a misleading translation of a Jewish idea that really is best expressed in Hebrew, as all Jewish ideas are. Yirat Adonai. Adonai is a Hebrew word for God that dates back to the Torah, but it can mean God in the many different ways that people have envisioned, that Jews have envisioned God over the centuries: a being, an idea of godliness, holiness as an ideal, a set of holy values, all in any of those things. So what does it mean to have Yirat Adonai? Well, the Hebrew word yirah can mean fear. Yirah can mean seeing. Yirah can mean having a sense of awe and wonder at something big and powerful. Yirat Adonai, a core value of the Torah, of the rest of our Bible, of the early rabbis, of Judaism in every generation through the years, means having a real sense of awe of the power and permanence and grandeur of holiness, of God, of holy values in our world. Some might interpret Yirat Adonai as having a strong personal sense of spiritual connection. There are a number of Jews who experience Yirat Adonai that way. Maybe a strong emotional experience that you have or had in the past that helps you feel connected to a sense of God or holiness in the world. There are a number of Jews who have a connection to the idea of Yirat Adonai that is more cerebral. They don't feel spiritual per se, but they have an intellectual sense that they're part of something greater than themselves. But as Jews, no matter what our experience is, Yirat Adonai cannot, must not end with a simple feeling or thought. A Jew can hike to the top of the most majestic mountain peak, take in the vista and feel a sense of awe and wonder. And a Jew may call that a spiritual experience, and that is beautiful. But for it to be a Jewish experience, there needs to be one additional step. That sense of awe needs to go beyond a lovely day in nature and a nice Instagram pic. That sense of awe must come home with you and affect your actions, your words, your decisions, and your choices. There's a story of Yirat Adonai from the Torah, from the book of Exodus, a very powerful story that's only 3 verses long. Pharaoh has begun to oppress the Israelite people. He initiates a propaganda campaign against them. He then strips them of their basic rights. The story continues as we read. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, "When you help the Hebrew women give birth, if you see the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it is a girl, you may let her live." The midwives, however, had Yirat Elohim, which is the expression here, means the same thing as Yirat Adonai, and did not do what the king of Egypt told them to do. They let the boys live. That's the story. Shiphrah and Puah perform a dangerous act of civil disobedience. They are clearly risking their lives, and maybe the lives of their families, by going against the directive of Pharaoh. They could have pretty easily justified their actions if they had done what Pharaoh asked. They could have argued, well, we don't want to murder all these Jewish babies, but the law is the law, and we just have to follow it. There's nothing we can do about it. We're just following direct orders from the king. But the one reason that Torah gives for their choosing a different path, a dangerous path, is Yirat Adonai. They believe that the eternal values of Adonai are higher, are more important to follow than those of the Egyptian Pharaoh. And these godly values do not allow them to kill innocent Hebrew babies. Just as I discussed at Rosh Hashanah, even though there is a value of following the law of the land, sometimes values collide. Sometimes our Jewish values conflict. And what we have to do is decide which is the value that we follow, which is more important. The midwives knew they could not follow both. They would need to risk their lives to follow the value that was the most important, to break the law and save innocent children from harm. Yirat Adonai for Jews isn't simply a sense of awe or spirituality. It has to move us to understand our place in the world differently, and we must use that understanding to guide our behavior. Modern teacher and social justice advocate, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, wrote, "The meaning of Yirah is to realize that life takes place under wide horizons that range beyond the span of one life or even the life of a country. Yirah in our Judaism should help us gain perspective, that big, overarching, large perspective. No matter what the word God means to you, no matter what Adonai means to you, maybe it's maybe a being, maybe a universal force, maybe a set of ideals that you strive for, maybe a sense of connection. It doesn't matter how you define Adonai or God. What does matter is that your actions align with the understanding that you are called to be responsible for something more than just self-glorifying. Each of us is valued and important, but others are valued and important too. Others who live in the present and others who will live in the future. And we're also responsible to factor in their well-being when we make decisions in our own lives. We sometimes see values conflict when it comes to the idea of success. What does it mean to be a success? What does it mean to be a successful person? Depends who you talk to. According to kind of basic society, being successful involves money, status, fame, maybe a long list of achievements that can be listed on a website. In Judaism, a person is a real success when they live their life guided by Yirat Adonai, a true knowledge of which values are the most important. How successful is one who gets into a top-tier college by cheating on their admissions test? How successful is one who gets a desirable job by falsely padding their resume or spreading a rumor about the person who was competing with them for the position? How successful is the one who impresses everyone in their social circle by talking about their personal accomplishments, many of which are greatly exaggerated? Jewish philosopher Martin Buber wrote, "We shall accomplish nothing at all if we divide our world and our life into two domains. One in which godly expectation is paramount, the other governed solely by the laws of economics and politics and social pressures. Covering one's ears so as not to hear the godly voice is breaking the connection between existing and the meaning of existing." As Reform Jews who strive to live a Jewish values-based Judaism, we work to fully blend those two domains of which Martin Buber speaks. We sometimes sacrifice social goals of popularity or status so we can live a life that is truly good. That is what is at the heart of Yirat Adonai. Yirat Adonai doesn't mean you're walking around with a fear of getting zapped by a divine zapper. Living with Yirat Adonai means you have a greater perspective than simply what I want here and now. It means your decisions and choices are guided by Jewish values, the values that our people have held up as godly for thousands of years. Amen.